two countries.
I mean, this is my community. You think I'm going to take advantage of people?
Actually, I think the Maytag story really symbolizes a lot of what's happening in America.
This is a story about a workforce that's struggling to survive.
You know, it is a difficult decision to make, but it was a decision that had to be made to be competitive.
No, que no somos animales, somos humanos. También, o sea, nos corre sangre por las venas.
And in this News Channel 8 special, we ask, where did the jobs go?
Thanks for joining us. When Maytag employees showed up for work in Galesburg on October 11, 2002, they received shocking news. Maytag announced plans to close the plant, wiping out some 1,600 jobs. The company said it wasn't competitively viable to make refrigerators there anymore.
I got the phone call early in the morning, and I guess my jaw probably hit the phone receiver.
Took us in the auditorium and told us that they were closing the plant, which we did not expect at all.
At the Maytag plant in Galesburg, there's a deserted parking lot. Workers sent home to sort out their options.
It wasn't possible to make refrigerators at our Galesburg facility that would be competitively viable.
That leaves the community to pick up the pieces, and state legislators left out of the loop. That's after Illinois produced millions in assistance for Maytag in Galesburg.
We have a record of helping them, a $7 million record, and then to not even be granted the courtesy of sitting down and talking was very disappointing.
Plus, uncertainty along Main Street, a downtown area that bounced back from tough times before. Now it may be facing its greatest challenge. A ripple effect extends from the plant into Galesburg and across Knox County, an economic impact that will be felt for years.
We had a great cluster of businesses here in town that directly supported Maytag's efforts, and only time will tell how full this impact is going to be on the community.
An impact that will reach out to the people as they try to deal with this severe blow.
I guess our number one interest is the concern of the families and the individuals that are employed out there.
All for a community that's just starting to hurt. Where did the jobs go? They came here to Reynosa, Mexico, and so did we. And what we found out is going to surprise you. Reynosa, Mexico. It's truly a town where old meets new. It's a marriage of the past and present. It's a blend of business strategy and a labor force that's longing for opportunities. Thousands of Mexicans migrate here from Veracruz and poorer regions to work in factories, what Mexicans call maquilas. These are high-tech businesses in modern industrial parks. Some 200 factories have opened around Reynosa during the last 20 years.
The working conditions that you find in a maquiladora here are not different from the ones that you guys have in the States. You know, as a matter of fact, sometimes they're even better.
When the Galesburg jobs vanished, they reappeared here in Reynosa. It's a sparkling setup where the company can crank out refrigerators at a fraction of the cost.
Inside the plant, Maytag makes side-by-side refrigerators, once the bread and butter of the Galesburg factory. The company also operates two plants in Reynosa that do sub-assembly work on other appliance parts that are finished in the United States.
We have a waiting list of people to come join our company in Reynosa. So we tend to offer a positive environment. We tend to offer an environment where people are learning new skills, getting to be engaged.
Those business deals come together a few miles across the border in McAllen, Texas. That's where the McAllen Economic Development Corporation operates a foreign trade zone, where firms move raw materials and finished products across the border.
What we're trying to do is to improve the quality of life of our community. And that's all.
A tall task for an area that knows all about battling double-digit unemployment and tough times. A business community trying to stay a step ahead of the times.
While developers in McAllen, Texas work to build a better economy along the border, folks some 1,400 miles away in Galesburg want to know why Maytag left in the first place. Union leaders met with Maytag about reviving the Galesburg plant to supply Maytag service parts. But Maytag says there was no official offer to buy the plant. At Maytag's corporate headquarters in Newton, Iowa, the appliance maker blamed safety for the delivery closing Galesburg plant.
Galesburg was challenged in every one of those areas. from internal safety performance to the quality of the product.
But Maytag's own in-house newsletters tell a different story. They clearly document safety, quality, and performance recognition at the Galesburg plant during recent years.
We set the industry standard, not just the Maytag standard, but we set the industry standard for service call rates out of our facility right up to when they close the doors on us.
At Galesburg City Hall, Mayor Bob Sheehan also speaks out against Maytag's reasons for closing. He calls it nonsense.
Not being very level, not being very fair, at least in my opinion, to say, well, these were the issues at that time. They could have said this 2 years ago and allowed people, or 3 years ago, and allowed people to work on it, see what could happen. It never was done.
Yet for Maytag's Senior Vice President Steve Ingham, who once served as plant manager in Galesburg, the choice came down to protecting Maytag's place in a competitive business.
It was a very difficult decision, but it was a decision that needed to be made in order for us to be competitive in the marketplace.
A marketplace that left the Galesburg plant out in the cold.
While many Reynosa factory workers come northward from Veracruz to find a future, one Maytag worker became more despondent over his situation.
Workers make their way to jobs in Reynosa's factories like clockwork. They come with hopes and dreams of building a better life. Diego showed us the home he built out of discarded materials. He works on the line at Maytag in Reynosa. We're protecting his identity because he could face firing or blacklisting in the factories for speaking out.
I can say that sincerely I'm really disappointed in Maytag. I can see now that it's not somewhere that I'm going to be able to work and earn enough money to provide for my family the way I need to.
Diego showed us his paycheck. He typically works 6 days a week, but his take-home pay is just $1 per hour. It's taking a physical and emotional toll.
There are a lot of really negative consequences based in the very low wage that we're paid. It can result in alcoholism, it can result in depression.
Tucked away on a Reynosa street, you'll find the Center for Frontier Studies and Human Rights. Arturo Solis is known worldwide as an advocate for Mexican workers.
The big problem for workers who arrive here is that they don't know their rights when they get here, and their labor rights are not respected frequently or enforced by their unions.
While companies like Maytag reap the rewards from relocating here in Reynosa, many workers endure low wages and difficult living conditions.
But a top Maytag manager in Iowa says that the appliance maker pays a fair wage for the Reynosa marketplace.
But we are very competitive in the community. We are not the highest and we are not the lowest.
How low is low? Mexican colleagues in poorer areas get by on $1 a day. Mexico's salary structure in the factories is far different from America's. It typically includes a daily meal at work, uniforms, vouchers for transportation and food, plus government health insurance. But when compared to earning $15 an hour for an experienced line worker in Galesburg, it doesn't sound like much at all.
These workers are so underpaid, they can't only not afford to buy the product that they're producing, they can't afford, like he says, to raise and take care of their own families. They can't afford to pay for clean water or sanitary plumbing conditions or things like that. That's just shameful.
That's the case for Diego. He sometimes goes without food in order for his children to eat.
Sincerely, I can tell you that my family economic situation means that I could never buy one of those refrigerators. They're just looking to take maximum advantage to exploit to the greatest extent possible the manual labor without thinking about their health or well-being.
Diego is a deeply religious man whose faith helps him to survive. He's proud of his humble home and loves his family. But after years of working in the factories, it's aging him beyond his 28 years, and patience is running out.
We're not animals, we're human beings. We have the same blood flowing through our veins.
Diego recently decided that he couldn't make ends meet at Maytag. He resigned and now works for another company delivering milk.
We have had some
Still to come in this News Channel 8 special report.
I love the people here who are very good, many very good friends, and love to see their family life.
A minister with a mission in one of Reynosa's poorest neighborhoods. You're watching Where Did the Jobs Go?
WQAD.com's your...
Those corporations need to know and respect labor laws here in Mexico, or the laws which can protect workers and their livelihood.
Welcome back to this News Channel 8 special report, Where Did the Jobs Go? Reynosa's neighborhoods are filled with folks who come to work in the factories. As they labor for a better life, a minister from Indiana is there to lend a helping hand. A friend they'll always remember.
We have had...
To understand Ed Kruger's mission in life, it's good to walk a mile in his shoes.
They have little knowledge of labor law and the protections for the workers.
For the past quarter century, the 74-year-old minister has made the trek into Reynosa's poorest neighborhoods, or colonias.
To me, it's a delight to be working with people who are seeking to improve their own lives.
This is where many factory workers live. There are dirt streets and floors. There's no indoor plumbing or running water. Homes are made from pallets and scrap materials.
These folks must feel in some ways like they found an angel here to have you here to look out for them, you know?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think I'm very much of an angel, but...
Ed's never grown out of the 60s, okay?
A former Catholic priest himself, Mike Allen now presides over the McAllen Economic Development Corporation. He feels differently about life in Reynosa's neighborhoods.
Ed is well-intentioned and he's well-meaning. He just doesn't grasp the economic nature of the world.
But that doesn't stop Ed Kruger from helping others. At first, focusing on health, work, and income issues for women workers in the factories. Becoming along the way, a friend to all families.
I love the people here who are very good, many very good friends, and love to see their family life.
Compare the Colonia housing in Reynosa to this. It's called Sherryland Plantation, and part of one of the fastest growing areas in the United States.
The view from neighboring Mission, Texas is far more eye-grabbing. Farmland for decades, developers created a new crop of housing and upscale living. Cozy, comfortable homes for American executives from the Mexican factories and others in the McAllen area.
Of course, it's been very profitable for them. It's been good for us. But you got to think outside the box. And you got to take all your assets, whatever those assets are.
In Reynosa, a huge Cineplex and new mall just opened near an industrial park complex. Construction also continues on government housing that factory workers can buy. But it's clear there's a sharp division between the haves and have-nots.
The greatest benefit to the development of the maquila sector in Reynosa is the business class in the city of McAllen.
Everybody comes down here, they take them to the worst colonia and the worst callejon that you can find, but there's just two sides of the story.
So it's still the dream of a better future and a dream of going home someday, right?
Yes, but a lot of them really think a lot about Veracruz, or where they came from, where they have plenty of fruit trees and a nicer climate.
Ed Kruger seems to take it all in stride. He's come a long way from his native Indiana, but he wouldn't have it any other way.
It has its hard points, naturally, and the hot summertime, it gets a little bit difficult. But the people themselves are the ones who inspire me to keep on.
A solid commitment to keep on with lessons about life in Reynosa.
Ed Kruger says that he will continue to fight for workers in their quest for better health and safety inside the Reynosa plants. Surviving on a Mexican factory wage takes careful budgeting. One family is finding a colorful way to help make ends meet.
These are the few piñatas that I have right now.
Jorge del Angel Martinez found an unusual way to supplement his salary. The 24-year-old Reynosa man makes piñatas.
The idea for making piñatas came about because we were looking for a way to bring in some extra money aside from what I'm able to make at the factory.
Jorge came to Reynosa from Veracruz 6 years ago. He works second shift at a factory where he makes antennas and satellite dishes.
More than anything, we're just working to try to get ahead.
It isn't easy trying to support a wife and 2 children, but he says that life is better for him in Reynosa.
What I want for them is something that I didn't have. I want them to be able to study, to be educated, and to have a career.
Factory jobs come to Reynosa for a variety of reasons, but one Texas firm is responsible for nearly all of them. It's the McAllen Economic Development Corporation.
Reynosa, Mexico shares a close connection with McAllen, its Texas neighbor. The city of 106,000 people is a few miles away and within view of this Reynosa balcony.
It's very much of one community, even though it's two countries.
When companies come to do business in Reynosa, chances are they'll deal with the McAllen Economic Development Corporation. It attracted 35 new companies during the past year.
If we get them here, we close them.
Former priest Mike Allen discovered a new calling in 1988. Once a minister to the poor, he now enriches McAllen and Reynosa by attracting new businesses.
We have touched and dealt with all 200 companies that have come. Everybody comes through us.
Including Maytag. When the American appliance maker looked for a new site, it checked out several Mexican locations before deciding on Reynosa.
We are the last of the manufacturers to go to Mexico. Our two major competitors have been in Mexico for over 20 years.
I think they're way behind what their competitors have done.
At the University of Texas Pan American, Dr. John Sargent is a leading researcher in the Mexican factory system. He says that Maytag has some catching up to do.
Maytag has been considerably behind this wave of investment through the border. And I think they have resisted that move and wanted to stay and been the traditional company, but the economics of the industry are pretty much making that impossible for them.
There's an autographed photo of the lonely Maytag repairman prominently displayed in Keith Patridge's office. He was a key figure in Maytag's Reynosa deal and calls similar corporate moves a last resort.
Companies don't like to move for a number of reasons, because you lose a skill set when you move a plant. You lose relationships when you move a plant. And quite frankly, it's expensive.
Maytag weighed the pitch from Texas, along with its needs, for making a good business decision.
We took all those factors into place. We felt like Reynosa was the right place to be.
What it came down to is...
Dave Bavard spent 32 years with Admiral and Maytag in Galesburg. He witnessed firsthand the plant closing and serves as president of the local machinists union.
How anybody can say that they take good-paying jobs from the United States and not just condone, but work at taking those jobs overseas to workers that are paid poverty-level wages and claiming that they're benefiting anybody, that is just so fraudulent. I mean, how shameful is that?
I'm not here to protect Maytag profits. You know, I'm here to try to help the community, our people, get better skill levels and stuff like that. That's who our client is.
Patridge says that bottom-line economics encourages firms like Maytag to move south of the border.
You can say bad things about the company that leaves, or you can sit down and use it as a wake-up call and say, what can we do to reinvent ourselves and provide jobs for our people?
And those are the same people that probably want to wave the American flag over their hometown and brag about what good citizens they are, or on the contrary.
As Reynosa experiences this industrial revolution, some of the benefits cross the border to McAllen, Texas. This is one of the fastest growing areas in the United States, and it's banking on the future.
This is called a foreign trade zone. The McAllen Economic Development Corporation operates it. Companies use it to transfer raw materials and finished products in and out of Mexico. During the past year, it moved $1 billion in merchandise.
We see a lot of opportunities for our community, but we went from 27% unemployment rate when I was a priest to down today it's just under 10.
Several companies with factories in Reynosa also set up shop in Texas. McAllen benefits from new buildings in its own industrial park, but that prompts some criticism from Mexico.
And you can simply drive along the Texas side of the border and see the huge new warehouses built in McAllen and Far, Texas, to see the amount of wealth that's created by the manual labor here in Mexico.
But Texas' strategy is to get more bang for the buck when companies come to Reynosa.
We're going to use them to help develop our community, just as if they're using us to help grow their company. And there's nothing wrong with that.
We have a big fight.
Still to come in this News Channel 8 special report.
They may not have wanted us to come to Newton, Iowa, and maybe we won't win today, but the fight begins today.
Maytag workers rally to rescue other American jobs, even if they can't save their own. Plus,
what is really frustrating is when you see, for example, a tax code that gives breaks to companies that are moving overseas.
Senator Barack Obama speaks out for Maytag workers and American manufacturing. You're watching Where Do the Jobs Go?
At every corner, this is another corner. It's a shame that it's in the United States of America.
Maytag employees from Galesburg are here outside the shareholders meeting with a message to make products in the USA, or the USA won't make it. Just past 6:30 Thursday morning, that's the word from this Harley parade. They're joining the rally to fight the plight they face at Maytag in Galesburg.
Keep it made in America, keep America's working, keep us strong.
95% of American flags are made in China today. So you're flying an American-made American flag.
It's a time for patriotism, picking up custom-made shirts and displaying a variety of signs. Galesburg workers are losing their jobs, but fighting for others.
Let's wake up. Our message today is a wake-up call to America.
We have a big fight.
National union leaders come to show their support, calling the Maytag situation a fight against corporate terrorism.
They may not have wanted us to come to Newton, Iowa, and maybe we won't win today, but the fight begins today.
They marched together closer to the shareholders meeting, showing support for those able to go inside and reflecting tough times from Galesburg.
Do we have a responsibility to the company? Yes. Do you have a responsibility to the country that you grew up in? And the answer is yes. And perhaps they should realize that and get back with it.
But Maytag justifies moves to Mexican plants as a way to keep up with competition.
Maytag needs to manufacture the products, and it needs to make sure that its manufacturing facilities are as competitive as possible.
And for these Galesburg workers, it means speaking out for the future.
That same day, May 8, 2003, Maytag CEO Ralph Hake said that he was a strong advocate for American jobs and would rather build in the United States. Recently, Maytag announced plans to add 200 jobs at its refrigerator plant in Amana, Iowa. That's after receiving Iowa tax incentives totaling $1.5 million. The Maytag story became a major talking point in the race to a U.S. Senate seat. Illinois Democrat Barack Obama formed a kinship with the Galesburg community, and he put that local situation into the national spotlight.
More work to do for the workers I met in Galesburg, Illinois, who are losing their union jobs at the Maytag plant that's moving to Mexico, and now are having to compete with their own children for jobs that pay $7 an hour.
Talking about Maytag's plight at the Democratic National Convention, that really gave the situation national attention, didn't it?
People who've worked 20, 30 years in a plant, who've helped build up a brand, who have made shareholders wealthy, and then suddenly have the rug pulled out from under them. You know, it really underscored, I think, the difficulties that workers are having in the manufacturing sector in this day and age.
I wouldn't say that we were singled out. I would say it was something they wanted to connect with because they knew the name Maytag would connect and resonate with a lot of people in the United States.
You go to Galesburg, Illinois, where 1,500 jobs were lost overnight when the Maytag plant moved down to Mexico. They don't understand the concept of a jobless recovery. If there are no jobs, there is no recovery.
You came to Galesburg during the campaign to meet with Maytag workers and others without any press coverage. Why was that important?
Well, you know, because what I wanted to do was listen to them and find out what they were going through.
He sat down behind closed doors and said, let me hear what's going on. And that's what we need to do. We frame the issues. Don't let the politicians frame the issues.
There's a sense of hopelessness when you know that you're doing a good job, that your plant is productive, that the company's making a profit, and you're still seeing that company move to Mexico. It really was disheartening for them.
Senator, we've heard a lot about NAFTA and reports of how Maytag received millions in tax breaks for taking jobs to Mexico. What should Congress do to stop this outward flow of good American manufacturing jobs into foreign countries?
Well, one of the things I talked about most in the campaign is the need for us to change our tax structure. It's not going to make all the difference in the world, but it could make some difference. if we stopped giving tax breaks to companies that are moving overseas and start giving them to companies that are investing here in the United States.
Maytag says that it made the move to be competitive. How do you feel about the future of American manufacturing jobs?
If we continue on the course that we're going right now, we're really going to have gutted our essential manufacturing functions. And we will be increasingly a service economy. Ultimately, what the manufacturing base provided was the possibility of people moving up through the ranks into the middle class, and that's increasingly disappearing.
But Galesburg, Illinois has done pretty well compared to our community, and we're glad. This is not a question of taking from somebody and giving to someone else.
The other thing is that the manufacturing jobs, for every single manufacturing job, you produce a lot of other jobs. That's not as true during the service, in the service economy. So I think there's some significant implications to this shift that we as a country have to examine very carefully.
Senator Obama says that the Maytag story represents what's happening across Illinois and all over the country.
Still to come in this News Channel 8 special report.
When my sister died of brain cancer, she had 3 strokes. And we feel certain that it was from all of the solvents and chemicals that she was working with in the maquila.
A law student speaks out for better working conditions in Reynosa, and Maytag makes a positive report on its Mexico move. You're watching Where Did the Jobs Go?
You don't work, you don't live.
Welcome back to this News Channel 8 special report, Where Did the Jobs Go? The factory jobs in Mexico create new opportunities for the workforce, but they can also trigger real-life horror stories for families.
When my sister died of brain cancer, she had 3 strokes.
Annette Degadillo finds it difficult to talk about her sister's death.
And we feel certain that it was from all of the solvents and chemicals that she was working with in the maquila.
Annette soon discovered that getting a response from the factory meant no response at all.
And when I went to seek help for her, I went to the maquila myself personally, and when I went there, they told me that she'd never worked there, she didn't exist.
In one of Reynosa's poorest neighborhoods, residents talk about conditions in some of the factories. Guillermina Vasquez left Veracruz 3 years ago with her family. She works at a Reynosa factory that makes units for kidney dialysis.
I'm particularly concerned right now because I'm pregnant, and where I'm working, there's a strong odor of solvent.
Guillermina says that the factory won't change her work area until she is 6 months pregnant.
They say in Spanish, abortos, which means miscarriages. And the miscarriages must have some kind of a link to the chemicals that they're using.
These are problems with all of the maquila, the inadequate protection of the workers.
Despite her family tragedy, Annette is one of the lucky ones. No longer a factory worker, she's studying to become a lawyer.
My vision is to work and to work and to work and to help people to understand and to learn to defend themselves.
Annette says that Mexican labor law looks very good on paper, but is poorly enforced in some factories. Maytag's refrigerator factory in Reynosa is trying to take the chill out of a very competitive appliance industry. So far, it seems to be working.
Maytag's new refrigerator factory is grabbing attention in Reynosa. It's being touted as a state-of-the-art facility.
It's probably the most cutting-edge manufacturing techniques and technology I have seen in any of the plants, anywhere.
And when it comes to improving Maytag's profitability, the company is encouraged by early results.
We have been operating in Reynosa long enough to have validated the fact that our competitive position has improved significantly.
From Maytag headquarters in Newton, Iowa, executives are monitoring Reynosa's safety, quality, delivery, and cost.
What we get from Mexico is equal to or a little bit higher quality than what we see on average in the United States.
Despite criticism from Maytag, Galesburg Machinists Union President Dave Bavard says that Illinois workers met or exceeded their goals.
When you take this to Reynosa, that same refrigerator that's being produced in Reynosa at pennies on the dollar is not going to sell for 10 cents cheaper in the United States than it did from the product that was made here.
But Maytag says that there are dramatic improvements in Reynosa. And for the appliance maker, that means better service for customers.
Maytag says that it doesn't have any firm plans to expand in Reynosa, but the company will keep its options open for adding more sub-assembly work there.
Still to come in this News Channel 8 special report.
Manufacturing is reinventing itself every day because the pressure is on every company to compete in this global environment.
Companies learn to think globally in order to survive. You're watching.
They've treated their employees, I think, is very shabby. The way they treated the community of Galesburg is very shabby.
Welcome back to this News Channel 8 special report, Where Did the Jobs Go? Globalization. It's a buzzword when talking about the world economy these days. But experts say that to create and retain jobs, Galesburg must think globally to keep up with the times.
Maytag is sharply criticized for leaving Galesburg and moving side-by-side refrigerator production to Reynosa, Mexico. But other companies led the way globally.
They are certainly behind the curve as far as accessing a lower-cost workforce than their competitors are. And I think that is responsible for some of the struggles that they've had financially over the last year or two.
Demands of a global economy will continue to shape manufacturing jobs in the United States and even here in Reynosa, Mexico. That's because competition from China can make items even more cheaply.
Industry in general is not moving to Mexico. It's moving to China. And I think China has tremendous quality problems.
Mexico has already lost factory jobs to China, and the local government blames China for take-home pay that averages about $1 an hour in Reynosa factories.
Salaries haven't moved that much since China came into the market because of the competition.
Ironic that Galesburg is losing factory jobs to Mexico. Mexico now losing factory jobs to China that pay about $1 a day. And developers say that American consumers are behind this trend.
When you start talking about competing, the ones who make the decision on who wins and who loses is your viewers and every consumer out there.
But global competition could actually keep Maytag in Reynosa. Building refrigerators in China isn't as attractive due to distance, shipping, freight expenses, and homeland security.
The labor piece is a small component. Now, it is significant enough to generate some amount of savings, but it isn't anything that would allow you to say carte blanche, everything needs to go to China.
Quitting time at this industrial park shows the hustle and bustle around Reynosa factories. With workers packed on buses for the ride home, developers jockey to stay ahead of the global business trends.
We've been to China several times and seen what's going on there, and we want to exploit their weaknesses. And we're looking at ways that we can help our companies compete from here rather than China.
I think we still have a lot of very shoddy goods coming from China, and I hope consumers realize that and start purchasing more from the U.S. or from Mexico.
All as American manufacturing jobs continue to disappear into foreign countries.
Developers in McAllen, Texas say they aren't stealing jobs from America. They say that American consumers make that decision each day with their wallets, each day that we go into a store and buy a cheaper foreign-made product. What do lawmakers think about this? That's what I asked Congressman Ray LaHood and Senator Dick Durbin.
When people ask me what should they do, how should they react to Maytag, what I say is don't buy a Maytag refrigerator because they're not going to be made in America.
It's true imports keep costs down, but it's also true that imports cost very good paying jobs. And we're going to reach a point where there won't be enough consumers making enough money to buy even the imports.
What do you think Congress should do to stop the flow of American jobs into Mexico and other foreign countries?
We need fair trade, we need free trade, but we need opportunities for our own companies to be able to manufacture the goods that people in this country want to buy in a way that allows them to continue to make money.
The thing to do, obviously, is to tighten up the tax codes. There shouldn't be any incentives from the U.S. Treasury for a corporation to move its jobs overseas. Secondly, we have to enforce the trade laws. We've got to make certain that those companies that are or countries that are involved in unfair trade practices are held accountable, whether it's China or any other country.
Union leaders tell me that our status as a world power is diminished when American manufacturing suffers. What do you make of that?
There's a lot of good workers, good hard workers in the Galesburg area, and well-trained people. And we need to create some opportunities for these people to have good paying jobs. And I think that's what the leaders are doing, and I'm working with them to try and create that opportunity.
I'd like to reward American companies that have good policies for American workers, that pay a living wage, that have decent health care and good pension benefits. You know, those are the American patriotic corporations that ought to be our highest priority.
Two voices, two political parties searching for solutions. All of Reynosa is a learning lab for a pair of Illinois researchers. Their work is uncovering a fresh perspective on the factory workers and life in Mexico.
I didn't know quite what to expect when I came to Reynosa.
Lifelong friends from Batesville, Indiana, Dr. Chad Broughton and Josh Walsman are making their third trip together into Mexico. Broughton is an assistant professor of anthropology and sociology at Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois.
To go to workers' homes and see how they sort of put together their homes out of discarded factory pallets and corrugated tin. It's been quite eye-opening.
Translator Josh Walsman spent 3 years working in El Salvador. Here, he finds a remarkable contrast between modern factories and primitive living conditions.
So all these contradictions are really a lot closer together in kind of a jumbled way that I haven't seen in other places where I've worked.
Their research offers a fresh perspective on decay in the Rust Belt and global boomtowns.
One thing that I've learned is that they want the same things that we want. That is to educate their kids, to feed them, take care of them, and hope that they can have a better lives for them.
After examining the huge population boom in Reynosa and forging many friendships in the neighborhoods, they worry about the future.
Competition from China or from other countries that have low wages are able to take a piece of this pie. What's going to become of the people who have come here and made livelihoods?
Jobs that could be endangered just like they were in Galesburg.
Dr. Broughton turns his field experience into valuable classroom lessons at Knox College. He also hopes to write a book based on his journeys to Mexico.
Still to come in this News Channel 8 special report.
There's an American flag waving, and it says, made with pride in the USA, Galesburg, Illinois, and that's the one everybody signed.
A look back at Maytag's last day on the line in Galesburg, and a look ahead to the future there and in Reynosa. You're watching Where...
We're selling our souls to the almighty dollar and to exploit workers overseas.
Welcome back to this News Channel 8 special report, Where Did the Jobs Go? The last refrigerator rolled off the assembly line in Galesburg on September 16, 2004. Although workers had nearly 2 years to prepare for this moment, it wasn't any easier for them. It's a final farewell at the Maytag plant in Galesburg. Workers put the finishing touches on its side-by-side refrigerator Thursday morning. These exclusive photos capturing the end of the line.
I mean, this was part of my family, but you know, it's a sorrowing day. You know, it's kind of like a family reunion when you go to a funeral.
A touch of pride and patriotism in that last product. Workers signed their names as a lasting tribute.
There's an American flag waving, and it says, made with pride in the USA, Galesburg, Illinois, and that's the one everybody signed.
That pride helping workers to cope with uncertain times, uncertainty that lingers even on closing day. Outside the plant, it's a time for hugs or a chance to save mementos on the last day. Yet this closing is about more than work.
The people I work with. There's a lot of nice people. A lot of friends for life that I hope we can still keep track of each other.
And as these photos chronicle the end of production, there's hope for the future.
Everybody knows that, you know, if you want good skilled labor, you know, this is where you can get it. And if this building's going to be for sale, this would be a great place to build something.
Building on the pride left by decades of Maytag workers.
The closing marks the end of an era in Galesburg manufacturing. The site actually dates back a century, when Coulter Disc Company began making ag equipment. Starting in 1950, Galesburg had more than a half-century of refrigerator production at the plant, with Admiral, Rockwell, and Magic Chef before Maytag arrived there in 1986. While the Galesburg jobs are gone, Maytag still employs some 18,000 people. 90% of its workforce remains in the United States. There are Maytag plants in Iowa, Illinois, Tennessee, Arkansas, South Carolina, Texas, Ohio, and California. But Maytag is in the midst of a major restructuring, designed to save the company at least $150 million. The company recently reported fourth quarter losses in 2004 of $14.1 million. Maytag's top boss says that it's not business as usual for Maytag. The company is a leaner organization, becoming more responsive at all levels.
When it comes to attracting new jobs, Galesburg won't be putting all of its eggs into one basket. And in Reynosa, the future seems teetering between promise and predicaments.
Reynosa's neighborhoods illustrate the city's severe growing pains. As Mexicans migrate to Reynosa for factory jobs, the city is growing at the rate of a block a day. It's not keeping up with services.
So here in Mexico, the things that stay behind are the low wages, the social problems, the environmental contamination, and the overpopulation.
The city's infrastructure suffers. There's not enough adequate housing. Streets are in bad shape. Indoor plumbing, running water, and sewers are in short supply.
The funds are not there to provide the infrastructure that is needed and to keep up with maintaining what's already developed.
A half-century ago, Galesburg and Reynosa shared a population of around 30 to 35,000 people. But today, Galesburg's population remains nearly steady, while Reynosa stands at close to 1.2 million.
Outside the former refrigerator plant in Galesburg, all signs relating to Maytag are off the walls. The huge facility is for sale. On Main Street, there are signs of strain for retailers during trying times. And at City Hall, the strategy is to seek variety in new businesses.
You want to have a diversified group as opposed to one super large employer, which is going to just, eliminate thousands of jobs. And that really is what happened here.
For the company that left Galesburg, production continues on side-by-side refrigerators at its Reynosa plant. Maytag also operates 2 sub-assembly plants there.
From Maytag's perspective, I think what the future is about is being leaner and faster and taking care of the customer better than the competition.
Maytag workers in Reynosa will endure conditions similar to other factories there.
Our shift is so long. There's so many hours, and even when I work overtime and on a Saturday, it's still not enough to meet all of our needs.
The future will be a time of transition here in Reynosa and in Galesburg. Both cities will look for new opportunities in a changing global economy, one that could be marked with more fluctuations than stability. Yet, at its roots, there remains the workforce, the people, struggling to survive in the midst of massive changes.
Next, some final words when this News Channel 8 special report returns.
Most competitive and productive workers in the world. This is what we are. And here they are. Here's the names of all of them. And if there's somebody in government that wants to make that a dying breed, that's a real disservice to this country and a real disservice to its citizens. And here are its citizens.
The final side-by-side refrigerator produced in Galesburg remains on display at the Labor Temple. That's where it continues to spark strong emotions from Union President Dave Bavard. Thanks for watching. Where did the jobs go?
The ones who make the decision on who wins and who loses is your viewers and every consumer out there.
It was a very difficult decision, but it was a decision that needed to be made in order for us to be competitive in the marketplace.
Manufacturing is reinventing itself every day because the pressure is on every company to compete in this global environment.
I'm not here to protect Maytag profits. I'm here to try to help the community.
Hired 89, job taken away in 04.
You want to have a diversified group as opposed to one super large employer, which is going to just, eliminate thousands of jobs. And that really is what happened here.
The working conditions that you find in a maquiladora here, guys have in the States. As a matter of fact, sometimes they're even better.
There's no food stamps in Mexico, and there's no welfare. You don't work, you don't live.
I'm really disappointed in Maytag. I can see now that it's not somewhere that I'm going to be able to work and earn enough money to provide for my family the way I need to.
These workers are so underpaid, they can't only not afford to buy the product that they're producing, they can't afford, like he says, to raise and take care of their own families.
What we get from Mexico is than what we see on average in the United States.
We set the industry standard, not just the Maytag standard, but we set the industry standard for service call rates out of our facility right up to when they close the doors on us.
Thank you for watching this News Channel 8 special, Where Did the Jobs Go? We appreciate your comments. You can write us at 3003 Park City, Moline, Illinois 61265, or email us at WQAD@WQAD.com. This has been a News Channel 8 special report.